Will, can you hear us?
Yeah,
All right, awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm getting ready to head back to school here in like 2 weeks, so I'm excited to get out of the house. How you doing?
Let's start just with this whole idea that on-chain metrics and price had diverged. It seemed like the on-chain metrics were really strong, but price kept falling over the last few weeks. It now looks like we kind of are getting them to converge back, and the on-chain metrics are being reflected in price. How do you look at that?
Yeah, sure. So, for the most part, market price follows what the underlying investor activity is doing on chain. But we do have these kind of more rare occurrences where price is doing one thing while on chain is doing another. And so like the most recent example of this that I could think of before now was in late January. And then before that, in late September, after we had this big crash, like 25% crash before we ran on that big run up to 60K from 10K. But yeah, you get these rare occurrences where price is moving against on chain. And the way I like to think of this is like the longer that happens, when that information finally gets priced into the market, it's going to have a greater effect. And so I think the fact that you've had such a large divergence, especially over such a longer period of time, we're looking at almost like 2 months now that this has been going on, really 2-3 weeks heavily. But the fact that there's such a strong divergence between the two makes me think that once that information is finally priced in, there's going to be a huge effect on price.
So we've seen 9 daily green candles. What exactly does that mean? Like, what should people take away from that?
Yeah, sure. So just like any market, Bitcoin, there's traders and traders use candles. And so for these candles, you need to have this, a closing and opening for different time frames, such as, the daily, hourly. People even look at like minute candles, right? Like traders that are in there, like on the really short time frames, doing all that in and out, day trading stuff. But Bitcoin itself never closes. So a lot of people get upset whenever you say, "Oh, Bitcoin's closing," because people are like, "Oh, well, Bitcoin never closes," but technically it does. For trading purposes, it does. And so Bitcoin closes at I just know because I'm on the Eastern time, so it's 8 p.m. Eastern time. I think it's 0 UTC. And so yeah, so for candles, you open and then you close, and then there's wicks. And so the wicks are where the price went above or below the close. And so you can, there's traders that literally analyze these candles, and so they need some kind of open and close threshold to be able to do those analyzations.
Got it. And so you created this 365-day like stock RSI over a 30-day net change of illiquid supply. That is like an alphabet soup of things to say. Explain what this metric is. And then it looks like right now it's starting to show us some pretty interesting things, especially when you compare it to what it's shown us over the past.
Yeah, for sure. The name is definitely a mouthful. Like some of the stuff just sounds like really complex. It's really not. What this basically is a way to kind of track the underlying supply shock in the market, because in my opinion, that's what drives Bitcoin up to have these big price rallies is, you have this wave of supply shock, and then the speculators come in and ride that wave up and take the reins of it and push it up further on the speculative premium. And so like when you go back and look at Bitcoin's history, I also threw in the newsletter we did this week an example from the 2017, 2018, that time frame. And what you see is kind of, at the beginning of the bull market, well, I should start here. In the bear market, you had a capitulation event, and then going into the bull market, you have the supply shock. I like to think of it as a supply squeeze, kind of just because it sounds cooler. But that's what really propels us into that main phase of the bull market, and then on the back end of that, you see supply becomes liquid again. And so for anybody who's not familiar, basically when I'm saying a liquid or a liquid, the way you can think of this is like the coins moving to like entities on the blockchain that have a very low or high spending behavior. So liquid and Glassnode also has something called highly liquid, which is like a way to look at it even further, have like extremely high spending behavior. So these coins are in and out all day. These are speculative traders, right? Then you have liquid coins, which are, are in and out a fair amount. And then you have illiquid. And illiquid are, the way I like to think of it, as the strong hands, right? These are the people that take in a lot of coins, never really sell them. These are the long-term investors that are kind of the concrete foundation of Bitcoin. So, kind of analyzing their behavior, I think, has a lot of signal to it. And, these are these indications that you get from this metric aren't, you don't get them often, but when they do come, they have a very high reliability. And so what we have now is, we had this big capitulation event in the end of May. A bunch of coins became liquid that were previously registered as strong hands. And so what you've had since then is just this really strong reaccumulation. And so like in this broader context, we've actually reached what I've used for this metric as a buy signal, where we fully made the rounds from, a full capitulation below this RSI, and now we're back above it. So to me, just seeing not only that we're in a buy signal, but the rate of change from that sell, from that capitulation to this new buy signal that's just flashed is really quite incredible. Going back in Bitcoin's history, we haven't really seen anything like this aggressive per se. Like we've absolutely, obviously, like I said, we see these supply shocks every bull run, but nothing on this scale of in terms of momentum. Even looking back to last year, which was, is still a really strong wave, but yeah, this has pretty much just been vertical accumulation since May.
And so when you look at things like exchange balances, it looks like, again, people are buying Bitcoin on the exchanges and they're just taking them off almost as fast as they possibly can. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So the exchange flows are something that I think a lot of people are familiar with now. The way that the premise here is that, when coins are being moved onto exchanges, they're being sold. When they're being moved off exchanges, they're going into some kind of like custodial service or cold storage, not, to be held. And so this is something that, a lot of analysts have been following for the early mid part of this bull run up until kind of mid-April. You just had coins just getting ripped off of the exchanges. And so, in mid-April, all of a sudden you had like, between then and March, I'm sorry, and May 19th, you had like 145,000 coins that came onto exchanges. And so, that was obviously highly bearish because you had a lot of people moving those coins onto exchanges to be sold. So that was like kind of an indication that, we were going to need this kind of prolonged reaccumulation phase because a lot of coins had been sold. But since then, since May 19th, we've kind of just been grinding sideways bearish. Well, I shouldn't say sideways bearish, sideways down, which is actually bullish for this indicator because it's saying the exchange balances are going down. But this week we've got this really large down draw. And anybody who is on Twitter, by the way, might have seen yesterday that there were these huge reported outflows. And I left that data out. This data is only going up to Thursday. I left only up to Wednesday. I left the Thursday data out just because some of those transfers were internal. It just hasn't been picked up by Glassnode's heuristics yet. So I just wanted to just be on the safe side and just leave that data out. But even excluding that, which is showing like a ridiculous signature on the chart, that's why I just left it out because there's no way that's true. It has to partially be internal. We're still seeing really strong accumulation in terms of the exchange flows as well.
Got it. And so when you look at this exchange flow Bollinger Bands, right, basically what you're doing is you're overlaying charts on top of each other, and then they're telling you, hey, based on the historical context, when this happens, it usually leads to prices going up or down, and it literally flashes green or red. This Bollinger Band, explain what this is, and then why is it flashing green right now?
Yeah, sure. So like traditionally people use Bollinger Bands just to kind of gauge to track volatility, and then also to see, in a general sense, when prices are at the bottom of the bands, prices are low. When prices are at the top of the bands, prices are high, and then you can kind of build like this general premise to make other like trading decisions based off of that. But I like I said, I think the exchange balances, the flows have some merit to them, and I wanted to kind of figure out how I could kind of take it a step further. And so on Glassnode, you can run different technical indicators, which the Bollinger Bands are a technical indicator. And so, playing around with them, I ran the Bollinger Bands over them. And I found this interesting, somewhat of a signal where you see when this breaks below the Bollinger Band, what that's showing is like there's super aggressive outflows, that broke out of the band that it's been, that it's been winding in. And so to me, that's a bullish signal because, once again, you're seeing heavy accumulation, you're seeing heavy buying, people are moving coins off exchanges. And so like going back and looking at this chart, it's given some really good buy signals, going back to like March 2020. And it's also given some pretty solid sell signals, like, in September before we had that big 25% crash. And then also in late May before we had the big capitulation. And the way that, I'm saying a sell signal is conversely to, the metric going below the Bollinger Bands, it's when it goes above. So, that's showing really strong inflows to exchanges, and that's presumed selling.
So when we look at the net realized profit or loss, basically this idea of where people, if they were to sell today, they would make money or lose money. Talk about where we are on this, because it was negative for quite a while, but now it looks like we've gone into the positive again.
Yeah, absolutely. So like a lot of the coins that had been trading in the range, and this kind of goes, along with what we were saying about this whole reaccumulation phase, we're selling at a loss. So as people who bought at higher prices, we're selling at lower prices. And so, to me, that was just, once again, evidence of the fact that, it was younger market participants, newer market participants, that were selling while you had these strong hands that were coming in and buying the coins and were offsetting, the selling from those weak hands. And it was just a matter of, when that process completed. But, it looks like now after trading in a long range of net losses being realized, we're actually starting to see net profit being realized, which is of course a positive thing, because, investors are in profit again. And so, they're more likely not to, capitulate, right? So the other way to think about it is like, you don't want, as soon as we just start to have, a bounce, you don't want to just see long-term investors that have been holding off in this range just all of a sudden start, dumping their coins, just looking for some kind of exit liquidity. And so to me, like, this is not alarming necessarily, but I just wanted to take it a step further. So like you had $2.4 billion of realized profit on Tuesday, but I wanted to see, is that coming from people that had bought lower in the range, right? Or is it coming from, longer term investors that were just looking for some kind of dead cat bounce and exit liquidity to, move out, and then, they think that the market's bearish. And so of course you want to kind of follow what the smart money is doing. And so just like looking into this a step further, looking at the average age of the coins being sold, that's still just kind of sideways, and the overall trend of that is down. So, it's still younger and younger coins overall being sold. Actually, on Tuesday, when we had that large, event of realized profits, the average age of coins actually trended down. So to me, this is showing that, it's people that bought in this range, I don't know, maybe in the low 30s, right? And so they're now kind of like pulling some chips off the table at the top of the range, because we still are technically in this 40K range. And then, just to take it a step further, aside from just the average age of the coins, you can actually look at by age cohort, how much selling has come from those different ages. So like, an hour, you can look at coins, between 7 and 10 years, between a year and 2 years, etc. And so looking at, coins between 1 week and 3 months, you saw this huge spike in that as well on Wednesday. So, obviously in the last 3 months, pretty much we've been in this range, between the last week and 3 months. So to me, that's indicating as well that a lot of the selling on Tuesday was coming from people in the range once again.
Sopra is something that we've talked about nonstop. Remind people what Sopra is and then what you're seeing there.
Yeah, Sober is actually like very similar to that. Just like the way you get to it is different. Sober is the spend output profit ratio. So it's basically looking at the profit of the coins that are trading on any given day. And so what you want to see, in a bull market is that, obviously coins are going to be trading in profit. And whenever this slightly dips below 1, which, below 1 coins are trading at a loss in aggregate, right? And that 1 that, it's just flat, it's just completely neutral. And like in a raging bull market, this is a good way to look at, the second it dips below 1, those are really good buy opportunities in a raging bull market. Of course, you need to look at other things to, kind of build that premise that you are in a bull market, because, you might buy when it dips below 1 and, it's not a raging bull market, and, it just keeps going further down. So that's one way that like people, I think, traditionally use SOPR in bull markets. And then conversely, you can use it in the bear market when you're in a bear trend. The second that it goes above 1, and if you use other metrics to once again determine you are in this bearish market, then you can use that to as kind of sell signals instead of buy signals in a bull market. But anyway, so right now we've gone back above 1, and what I would like to see here is us to either A, kind of like stabilize above 1, or B, have some kind of price correction. Today we're down like 2%. I would like to see like some kind of like 5-10% plus correction, and for us to bounce off of 1. And to me, that would be a really good sign, that we have, that we're back in a bull market.
Before I turn it over to my brothers real quick to ask you a couple of questions, what about miners? What are they doing? Are they in profit? Are they not? Are they accumulating, selling?
Yeah, this is interesting because miners played a role in the capitulation event that we had down in late May, and probably part of the reason why we kind of chopped around in that range for a while and kind of was moving sideways bearish. But for almost 2 months now, miners have actually been accumulating. And, part of that is due to, we had this big drop in hash rate, and then you had this massive like record difficulty adjustment. And so now the miners that are still on the network are like extremely profitable. And so, it's just from, first principles, it makes absolute sense why, you're seeing this really strong accumulation.
Joe, John, what questions you guys got?
Will, what's going on, man? Big fan of your work. I only open up his email the day that you write.
Appreciate it.
I got you.
I'm going to come over there and smack that dude haircut off your head.
That was a pretty good one. It took me like 30 minutes to think of that. So, no. So for people that don't necessarily have kind of background in financial markets, don't look at technical indicators, don't kind of look at any of these on-chain metrics, but they own Bitcoin. They see it as whether it's a store of value or just part of their long-term holdings or financial strategy. Should they be caring about on-chain metrics? Are there certain things that they should be looking at? Where do they start? Is it important, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are some people that just don't care, right? Like there's people that are just, I'm going to DCA. I don't care about any charts or anything.
Yep.
And those people are definitely out and spoken on Twitter. But I think on-chain can be useful to, just kind of have some directional awareness, right? Like, yeah, maybe you're not going to make a trading decision based off of it, but with some people just to, like to enjoy, knowing kind of where we are in terms of, traditional market cycles or, what's the behavior of the investors on, just so they can be, prepared and just aware of where, kind of where we are. And so, I think for just people who are going to hodl and just, they don't care about, price fluctuations, I think there can still be some value for them there. In terms of like how to go about like learning on chain, I think there's a couple good newsletters. Of course, like I'm going to show my own, but Glassnode also does like an excellent newsletter. Willy Woo does one as well, but his is $50. I think it's $50 a month. But mine's free and Glassnode is also free. So for people who are just like looking to just dip their toes in the water, I think those are two really good options. And those go straight to your email as well. So that's a good way to get started. Also, Glassnode on their website, they have something called Glassnode Academy, and it's just it's completely free. It's just basically like an introduction program to kind of get good understanding of kind of like the very entry level metrics and things like that.
Will, thank you for doing this. I also enjoy your letter every day when you write it. I make sure to like it as well. I am curious what you use to look at on-chain metrics. What services are out there available? Which ones do you like? Which ones do you not like? And like, is there anything people should basically be looking at or staying away from?
Yeah, sure. Great question. I think overall, it's still a very niche, like little segment of even Bitcoin. The whole on-chain analysis community. So, I think the on-chain community does a good job of kind of policing itself, where people will call each other out for bad work. And so, like, I don't think necessarily there's any providers that I would say to stay away from. I personally prefer Glassnode just because I think they have some really interesting data, especially around entities. I think there's a lot of signal in their entity data that's proprietary to them. So I see merit in them for that reason. But there's other really good data providers out there, including Nick Carter's Coin Metrics, which I think is probably one of the more popular ones, and then also CryptoQuant, which is based out of South Korea. So there's some other small and up and coming ones like ByteTree. I know of. They're based out of England, and then also Whale Map. They do some really interesting, unique data. Kind of tracking whale movements, and they've come up with some creative metrics there. So it's still a small, very very niche thing. So yeah, I think overall, like it does a good job of kind of policing itself.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Will, when you think about what people should do with the metrics, I know that you and I have talked about it before. Is this something that you think should just guide their overall view of kind of the macro environment of Bitcoin? Do you think it's something that they should be trading on? Do you think that it's just kind of one data point? It's the Bible of data points. How do you think about it?
Yeah. The way I think about on-chain is it's best used to find broader trends. You can look at on-chain and like you can watch like the intra-daily exchange flows, and you can drive yourself absolutely crazy doing that. Like, I think the real value is following like what's going on over multi-week basis, multi-month basis. Where are we in terms of a broader sense, and kind of gain this kind of like directional awareness, and in terms of how is the kind of like underlying investor activity looking? Because on-chain is basically like X-ray vision of the market. And you can see what all different kind of entities are doing by age, by their size, if they're exchanges, if they're retail, whatever. And so like I think that's the best way to use it, is as kind of like this foundational premise in a broader sense. And like if I was going to make any trading decisions, I would use it that way. But I also think it should be used in confluence with other things. I think all good traders, look for confluence across, multiple different kinds of indicators. So you can use things like technical analysis, order flow analysis, follow liquidity, whatever it may be. But I just see on-chain, even if you don't see it as like your primary way to analyze the market, I still think it's a very strong supplemental way to analyze things, and at least kind of give you this like situational awareness as to okay, yeah, we're seeing strong accumulation, we're still not in bear territory, and so I think we're still in this underlying bull market, even though price action is perhaps saying another thing. Or you can maybe use it to have that foundational premise, and then use the technical analysis to get more of kind of like a accurate entry, or you can use order book flow analysis to get like a more solid entry. And so yeah, I think it's best used with other things, right? And looking for confluence amongst like as many things as possible. If you get confluence amongst on-chain, technical analysis, and fundamental analysis, and whatever you're looking at like order books and stuff, that to me is like the ultimate buy, and this is what we had been tracking over the past month, is like you had this confluence with volatility, where volatility was really tightening up. It looked like volatility was getting ready for this massive move. And at the same time, we've been tracking this, quote unquote, supply squeeze, where we had more and more coins getting reaccumulated, by those strong hands from the speculative traders. So, I think there was some synergy in that, right, where you had this confluence across two different things, and I think those are the best opportunities.
Will, you're a legend. Where can we send people to find you on Twitter or subscribe to the email?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Pomp. This is really fun, and it was nice to meet your brothers as well. I'm on Twitter at Clemente III, and then I have a newsletter that's free, goes out every week, and then sometimes I'll send out an intra-weekly one if I see something like super interesting. But it's WC3. I'm sorry, BTC by WC3 at Substack.com, and it's also in my bio on my Twitter, so you could just click that.
people in the comments love you, which means that you're doing a great job. So keep it up. I think that you're going to end up passing Joe in Twitter followers by the end of the year, but that's just my thought process.
What's Joe at?
275.
Oh, he sized you up. He said, "What's Joe at?"
Oh.
He's like, do I got a chance? I think you got a chance.
Will, what are you
You're
at?
killing it.
I think I'm at like 155 or 1.
He's
All right.
156.
He's at 156. So last year Joe was at 0. Will, what you were at what at the beginning of the year?
God, like 2,000.
2,000 to 155 in about 6 months. Joe, you went from what at the beginning of the year?
0 to 270.
No, you didn't have 0 at the beginning of the year.
Oh, I'm talking about last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to check.
His growth is more. Will's growth is more.
Will's growth is more this
Will's
year.
hockey sticking it right now.
All right, we're gonna see that.
I like it.
What?
That's the big competition I want to see. Joe on a tear, LeBron James retweeting him. He's just, but Will's got the beast, the apex predator, tailwinds for him.
The Bitcoin community is a little more passionate than sports, I think, sometimes.
Hey, some would argue that Bitcoin is better than New York Yankees, but that's. All right, Will, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you.
Talk
See you,
soon,
Will.
buddy.